नमस्कार। Namaskar, brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, students and scholars, teachers and trainers, professors, professionals, officials, and listeners, learners, those who are listening, watching YouTube channel 3M Creator. I welcome all respected doctors and directors. I welcome honorable ministers and managers. I welcome honorable advocates, supervisors, administrators and advisors. I welcome the most honorable President Prime Minister Modi ji. It is really nice time, nice place, nice section today. Our own scholars, sportsmen, students, and dear friends, those who are busy in doing research in Indian and international universities, they must know the fundamental power of words, music, magic of our holy Indian culture. India is known by its spiritual values all over the world. Our holy Indian constitution teaches us judicial justice. As we have discussed yesterday, what are the important fundamentals of justice? Let's discuss today the case of Sierra Banu versus Union of India. It is a landmark step enforcing equity and justice. Let's enlighten the statement. The Uniform Civil Code, as envisaged in Article 44 of the Constitution, has not yet materialized. Hindu and Muslim law remains the cause of many differences even today. The principle of equality before the law in Article 14 of the Constitution, that is, the fundamental right to equality, has not yet been applicable to personal laws. There is a huge difference between Hindu and Muslim law in matrimonial matters. If seen from the legal point of view, that Muslim law is stricter than Hindu law. For example, let us take divorce. Divorce in Hindu law is more liberal, balanced, and provides equal rights and opportunities to both the parties to the marriage. Whereas in Muslim law, the basis of divorce is one-sided, that is giving absolute rights to the man. Triple divorce means talaq. Joint with that is a good example. In triple talaq, the Muslim husband utters the words, I divorce you, I divorce you. 3 times to divorce his wife, and with the last utterance, the talaq is effective immediately and is irrevocable. This is a disgusting and cruel method of divorce. It is against the principles of equality, against the principles of equality and justice. This custom of divorce has been challenged in the case of Sarah Bano versus Union of India, AR 2017 SC 4609. Its facts in brief are as follows. Sarah Bano petitioner was married on 11 April 2001 in Allahabad with Rizwan Ahmad. According to Muslim customs, they had 2 children, a son, Mohammed Irfan, and a daughter, Umaira Naz. Husband Rizwan Ahmad had to say that Sarah Bano often lived with her parents. On April 9, 2015, Sarah Bano went to her maternal home. Rizwan Ahmad went to pick him up several times and also sent messages asking him to come and stay with him. She also asked Sarah Bano's father, Iqbal Ahmad, several times to send Sarah Bano. But Sarah Bano did not come to her husband's house. Sarah Bano categorically refused to live with her husband on 9 August 2015 and earlier in June 2015 as well. There was also a matter of restoration of married life between the two, but overall the bitterness between the two went on increasing and they could not be united. On October 10, 2015, husband Ahmad Rizwan divorced her husband Sarah Bano by uttering the words, I divorce you thrice. The validity of this divorce has been challenged by Sarah Bano in the Supreme Court. As per the decision was given by a 5-judge bench of the Supreme Court on 22nd August 2017. This decision was of majority. Chief Justice J.S. Kehar and Judge S. Abdul Nazir expressed dissatisfaction with the decision. Justice Kurian Joseph, Justice R.P. Nariman, and Justice Uday Umesh Lalit gave the majority decisions. The arguments were presented on behalf of petitioner Sarah Bano that triple talaq is unconstitutional. One is triple talaq is unconstitutional. Two is it encroaches on the fundamental rights of Muslim women. Three is this is not in accordance with the order of the Quran. Four is it is arbitrary because it is effective immediately and is irrevocable. Five is this system is discriminatory for Muslim women. And six is it is neither a part of nor infringes upon the religious freedom of Muslims. Opposing these arguments by the respondent Rizwan Ahmad it is stated that one is this petition is not maintainable. This petition is not maintainable. Triple talaq, for example, talaq ul bidat is statutory divorce. It is part of Muslim religious freedom. It is not opposed anywhere in the Quran. This petition is not maintainable. Triple talaq, for example, talaq ul bidat is statutory divorce. It is part of Muslim religious freedom. It is not opposed anywhere in the Quran. Many precedents and judgments have also been presented before the court on behalf of both the parties. Ultimately, the Supreme Court in its majority decision set aside triple talaq, for example, talaq ul bidat, as unconditional. The decision of the Supreme Court was as follows. In few of the different opinions recorded by a majority of 3.2, the practice of triple talaq or talaq ul bidat is set aside. Supreme Court has said that triple talaq encroaches on the fundamental rights of Muslim women, hence it is unconstitutional. It is arbitrary because it is effective immediately and is irrevocable. There is no attempt to compromise. It is not a part of Muslim religious freedom. This is not in accordance with the order of the Quran. This is contrary to international declarations and conventions. It is discriminatory under Article 14 and 15 of the Constitution. This decision of the Supreme Court is a strong signature on the document of equality and justice. It can be called a milestone of equity and justice. This is all about the judicial process that we have heard, how justice is done, being applied in the Hindu and Muslim law. What is law? How it is different from morality? Let's explain it. The more important the place of law in civilized society, the more difficult it is to define it. Till date, no universal definition of law can be given. There are many reasons for this. The most important reason is to be connected with social science and society. Methods vary with social change, country, time and circumstances have a direct impact on the law. This is the reason that different definitions of law have been given from time to time. H.L.A. Hart also said that there is hardly any question related to human life except law, which cannot be given a definite answer. The definition of method is always creating a complex question due to its diversity. According to the concept of law, Acharya Hari, definition of law. What is the definition of law? Despite all this, attempts have been made to define the law. Some of the main definitions of the law are as follows. According to Montesquieu, in a broader sense, laws reflect the interrelationship of natural objects. God has his own laws. So, the physical world and the human community also have their own laws. In this view, there are three types of laws: divine law, physical law, and human law. The divine law is related to the will of God, whereas physical laws are an expression of the order of nature. Motion, law of motion, law of light, law of gravity, etc. There are two types of human law: ethical rules, ethical rules and legal rules. Ethical rules are based on ethics. Statutory rules are known as civil rules. In the words of Blackstone, the law is the name of the complete rules of action. In the broad sense, the law includes many types of methods related to speed law, law of gravity, law of life science, law of mechanical knowledge, law of chemical, law of physical, law of ethics, law of celebrity, national law, etc. has been done. According to Holland, law refers to those general rules of human actions which are expressed by the external conduct of human beings and which are implemented by a certain authority. This authority is a person chosen from the almighty human authorities in political society. Holland says from the elements of jurisprudence. In the words of Hooker, law refers to the rules and bylaws through which human actions are conducted. Law refers to the rules and bylaws through which human actions are conducted. According to Salmon, by law, the meaning of civil law is that which is applicable to the citizens of a country. It can also be called the law of the state, the law of the state, the law of lawyers, or the law of the court. In fact, the legislative law is the same as that applied by the court for the establishment of justice. According to Austin, the group of rules that can be imposed on individuals ruled by sovereign or politically higher people is the method. These rules require a certain conduct from individuals for whom the governing class is duty bound, and behind them lies the fear of the sanction of sovereignty. This is called the positive law. Carlson had given the definition of law and said that Law is command. Command means imposition of duties. Carlson calls it the abnological command. Rescue Pound has adopted the law in three meanings. First, the law is a general system by which human ethics are kept under social control in a well-organized society. Second, the law serves as authoritative guidance. And thirdly, the law includes all judicial and administrative function in the country. In essence, those two pound accepts the common law system of the country as the law. In the words of the good, law is unique social fact, and in no sense can it be considered a set of rules that make sense of rights due to the existence of basic life of the community. The existence of the law is impossible only when the individuals live together collectively. The basis of the law's legitimacy is its social acceptability, not the command of the sovereign. Because the sovereign is not superior to the law and is bound by the law itself. In the words of H.L.A. Hart, such rules which call upon a person to perform his duty and prevent him from wrongdoing by prohibition in the law. The law does not impose futile orders on any virtuous person, nor does it impose futile orders. In its conclusion, we can say these definitions of the laws lead to the conclusion that one is every law is gift of God and decision of sagas. Two is law is not a state made, but a result of working people in society. Three is law is command of someone. Four is law is a form of arrangement of rights and duties to be enforced by the state. Five is law emerges as a result of social forces. Six is law is the guardian of social interest. Seven is law is the formal rule governing human social life. Eight is law is an instrument of justice. Nine is such rules which are applied by the courts for determination of legal rights, and these are law. 10 is law is a form of judicial decision. Law is a form of judicial decision. Law is an origin of judicial process. This is the conclusion of the various definitions of the law. In essence, it can be said in the words of Roscoe Pound that it is difficult to give any unanimous definition of the law. Law and morality. Law and morality are two different words. There was no difference between these two in the past. But the law and morality are mentioned in the scripture. Human conflict was governed by practices. traditions, and degree. Ethics is the basis of social life. Ethics is the basis of social life. This is the code of social practice. In the absence of morality, social life cannot be envisaged. In the social context, the objective of morality is to increase social harmony by eradicating excessive selfishness, hurt, behavior towards others, destructive conflicts, and other disruptive forces. This is also the purpose of common law system. Then the question arises then, what is difference between law and morality? Broadly, the following differences are found in law and morality. One is law, rules are imposed by the state, while morality is based on social approval of any conduct. In other words, it can be said that the laws of law are applied by the state, while the rules of morality are related to conscience and apply to human and social consciousness. The enforcement of the rules of law is ensured by the state's discipline. That is, every person has to follow the law. For violating the law, he is considered a part of the punishment. In simple words, it can be said that there is a fear of punishment or penalty for following the law, whereas only social pressure remains behind morality. A person cannot be punished for not performing moral duties. The rules of law are expressed in clear and definite language, while the rules of morality are neither clear nor short. The law regulates the external conduct of the person, while the morality controls the inner self. Explaining the difference between law and morality, Kant states that law requires external compliance with rules and regulations, regardless of the underlying intent, while morality affects the conscience of humans. Goodness is the basic catalyst in compliance with morality, while law expects complete subordination of its rules and commands whether or not a particular person approves them or not. But now, there is no difference between overall law and morality. It has also not been possible to separate these two. Today there are many such acts which are punishable only for being immortal. In the matter of state of Uttar Pradesh versus Kaushalya 1964 for SCR 1002, the order to get a prostitute out of an area has been validated because prostitution is fatal to public morality and detrimental to public health. Similarly, in the matter of Ranjit D. Odyssey versus State of Maharashtra year 1965 SC 881, restrictions on the novel called Lady Chatterley Lover and its performance and sales were considered punishable because it was perverting the human mind. In a country like India, killing a woman or her hip is also considered a punishable offense because it is against morality and public policy. This is Rupan Deval Bazar versus KPS Gilia year 1996 SC 309, our constitution also does not consider law and morality completely separate. In it, morality is considered as the basis of reasonable restriction. What are the various kinds of laws? Let's explain it. What are the various kinds of laws? Knowledge of different types of laws is necessary to assimilate the content of law. Broadly, there are two types of laws: general law and specific law. The general law generally applies to the whole country, while the specific law is applicable to a particular class or territory. Various jurists have categorized the laws from their own perspective, such as Austin describes the following four types of method. One is divine law, two is human law, three is positivism, four is figurative method. Holland has classified the laws on the basis of function. According to Holland, the laws are as follows. One is substantial law, two is procedural law, three is personal law, public law, international law, simple law, specific law, public goal law, personal goal law, proceeding law, preceding law, remedial law. According to Salmon, the laws are as follows: mandatory law, physical or scientific law, natural or moral law, consecutive law, conservative law, experimental law, international law, civil law. The classification of the methods as a whole can be explained by the following chart. Types of law: national law and international law. National law further can be divided in public law and private law. International law further can be divided public international law, private international law. In private international law there is no classification, but public international law has classification in the form of criminal law further. Further, this criminal law is divided into personal law, property law, law of compulsion, contradiction laws, and out of this law of compulsion, divided further in contact law, contact era, law of tort. When we talk about national law, there are two divisions, public law and private law. Further, these are divided in constitutional law and administrative law. Constitutional law and administrative law. There are two branches. When we talk about these are further divided in personal laws, property laws, law of compulsion, contradiction of laws. But law of compulsion further divided in the form of contact law, contact era, law of tort. Now let us discuss imperative law. Imperative law means those rules which are imposed by the authority having full power as a rule of conduct through physical force, etc. It is issued as a command of the sovereign. Such laws mainly have two characteristics. One is these are the general rules. One is these are the general rules, and two is are enforceable by state authority. Fear of penalty remains behind the compliance of such laws. Two important categories of laws is physical laws. After an imperative law, we study physical laws. It is also denoted as a scientific law. Physical law is also known as scientific law. Physical or scientific law expresses the uniformity of nature. The rules of these statutes are principles that reveal the uniformity of nature. Good examples are the theory of gravity, the principle of air pressure, the principle of magnetism, the theory of tides, etc. What is natural laws? Its third category. After imperative law, physical law, we study natural laws. Natural law is known by many names like moral law, divine law, universal law, eternal law, etc. These are divine rules imposed to control human behavior and conduct. They are based on the imagination of justice, realization of proper experience, and rationalism. Simon has given the following benefits of natural law. One is this reduces the insufficiency of the law. Two is it inspires change from who is to what should be. And three is this evaluates laws. Customary law. Customary law refers to those rules of action that are actually followed by people. According to Simon, these rules are an expression of the exact uniformity of voluntary works. When fully established as a customary law, it is implemented by the state. The case of Kalimama and Janardhan Pillai is a good example of a customary law. In this, it has been determined that Patni Bhagam is prevalent among the people of the Krishna Nayak sect of the south, under which, after the death of the father, his property is not divided according to the person and distributed equally among the wives of the deceased. After customary law, physical law, imperative law, natural law, we study conventional law. According to Salmon, conventional law means refers to such rules which are made by individuals to voluntarily regulate each other's conduct. In other words, it can be said that this is a rule based on mutual agreement between people to regulate their mutual behavior. The rules of a club or a particular society fall in this category. When they are implemented by the state, they become part of the civil law. The law of nation is also an example of the conventional law. What is practical law? After imperative, physical, natural, customary, conventional, we study practical law. Practical law refers to rules that are made to achieve a practical purpose. In other words, it can be said that the rules that guide a person in achieving an objective are indicative of experimental or technical method, health-related methods, and health-related method, craft method, etc. are good examples of this. After practical method, conventional method, practical law, conventional law, customary law, natural law, physical law, and imperative law, we study international law. International law refers to rules that are considered as binding rules in mutual relations by independent states. These rules govern the mutual relations of sworn states. According to Offenheim, international law is a set of customary rules that civilized nations are legally bound to abide by in the conduct of their mutual practices. According to Professor Russell, international law is a compilation of rules in relation to which countries agree to control their transactions towards each other. International law is thus a set of rules that are followed by various nations to regulate their mutual relations. What is civil law? After international law, practical law, conventional law, customary law, natural law, physical law, and imperative law, we study civil law. The law prevailing in a country is called the civil law of that country. Salmon called such law the law of the state, the law of legalists, and the law of courts. Holland and Austin have referred to the deterministic law of the country. Some legalists are also call it municipal law. Civil law has mainly two characteristics. One is it is implemented by the state, and two is fear of penalty is behind its practice. Next is common law. The law prevalent in English is called common law, except for the following methods. It represents the entire law: statutory law, equitable law, and specific law. It is based on common English conventions which have been accepted by the court. Thus, the decision law is its basis. Law of equity. According to Story, equitable law is that part of justice which was administered by the Chancery Court. Equity is a compilation of such rules which were implemented by Chancery Court to remove the flaws of the common law of England and to compensate for the shortcomings. Trust, specified compliance, administration of estates, injunction, etc. are good example of this. It can be shared in essence that the Chancery Court supplemented the law with the principle of equity, justice and pure conscience. What is constitutional law? Constitutional law is the basis law of the country. According to Salmon, constitutional law is a set of statutory rules and that determine the structure of a state. In the words of Dicey, the constitutional law contains rules which directly or indirectly affect the decision or exercise of the sovereign power of the states. According to Hebert, constitutional law is a set of rules governing the relationship between the sovereign and its subjects and the various organs of the sovereign body. In the constitutional law, provisions relating to constitution of government, rights, objectives of state, rights of citizens, duties, constitution of parliament, system of functioning, formation of state, legislation, population of function, constitution of Supreme Court and High Court, jurisdiction, etc. are given. Amending constitutional law has its own fixed procedure. What is administrative law? According to Sir Ivan Jennings, administrative law is related to administration. It determines the constitution of administrative bodies, rights and duties, etc. Dicey has given this same definition according to Wade and Phillips. Administrative law is that branch of public law which deals with the structure, powers, duties, rights, obligations of various organs of government, but engaged in administration. Various organs of government engaged in administration at present due to the increasing obligations of the state towards the citizens. The importance of administrative law is increasing day by day. What is statutory law? Statutory laws mean such statutes, the laws passed by Britain and the Parliament of India fall in this category. Ordinances issued by the President are also included in the statutory states. What is autonomic law? Autonomous laws refer to laws that are created by autonomous bodies. Such statutes are made under the legislative powers granted to autonomous bodies. Constitutions created by universities, established by state law, fall into this category. Sometimes such laws are also called bylaws. Martial law. What is martial law? Martial law is also called military law. Such laws are enforced by the military court or martial in military justice administration. These laws are applicable both during the war and peace time. Other types of law, broadly the laws are the same as above. But there are some other laws which we can call subcaste of laws, such as one is criminal or criminal law, two is labor law, three is taxation law, four is company law, and five is tort law. It is noteworthy here that this classification of laws is existing. Let's discuss the relationship between law and state in the light of the theories known to you. The state is the creator of the law. the state expresses its policies through the law. It is mandatory for everyone to follow the law. In case of violation of law, the guilty person is punished by the state. Fear of discipline or punishment compels the person to follow the laws. In this way, there is a close relationship between the state and the law. Both complement each other. There are three main legal principles of relationship between state and law. Namely, one is being the creator of the state, law is superior to the law. Two is it is bound to be due to the law preceding the state, and law and state are virtually the same. State is superior to law. Due to the legislative powers vested in the state is considered superior to the law. The state is the creator of the law. No power other than the state can create law. Hobbes has also maintained that the power of lawmaking itself in the hands of either Leviathan or the moral god or ruler. The law cannot be created by anyone other than the Commonwealth. The law cannot be created by anyone other than the Commonwealth. Civil law is directed by the state. It's mandatory and justice can be justly, unfairly. Thus, Hobbes conceptualized the state as enlightened autocratic. Austin had been strongly advocated to consider the state superior to the law. Austin has called the law in command of the state. Austin has defined the state as sovereignty. In political society, the state is the political leader. So, it had the sovereign power of law making. Collectively, the sovereign is above the law, and for this reason, the state is superior to the law. In dictatorial governance, the superiority of the state is very easy. The will of the king has the power of law. According to Hegel, the state is the divine idea that exists on the earth. Nazi fascism concept have drawn the principle of superiority from the law of the state far and wide, and the law has been defined as the will of the leader. In Britain, behind the supremacy of Parliament lies the principle of the state is superior to the law and the creator of the law. Methods is binding on state. The second principle of the relationship between state and law is law precedes and is bound by it. This theory considers law to be more fundamental and preceding the state. This is why the law is binding on the state. In the medieval period, the concept of natural law was in the form of higher law. The king had absolute power over deterministic method, but he was also bound by natural law. Ahering had considered law as binding on both the ruler and the governed, and the law states that the law is considered to be a conceivable policy of power and to accept it voluntarily. Julian, while developing this theory as a principle of self-restraint, had made it clear that the state is the creator of the law, but he surrenders voluntarily to the law. Crabbe and Daggett does not consider the state to be the creator of law. This makes it clear that the law is binding on the state. There is nothing called sovereignty. Contrary to the majority's sense of justice, the statute cannot be considered law. The emergence of the rule of law in England has been explored only for the compulsion of law. The rule of law has three main elements. One is law has supremacy over the arbitrary power of the state. Two is all will be equal before the law, that is, all the authorities will follow the law and they will be subject to the jurisdiction of the ordinary court. Three is constitutional law is the result of judgments of courts regarding the rights of private individuals. Dicey, law of the constitution. Law and state are same. The third important principle of the relationship between state and law is law and state are one. Haynes Kelsen is a strong supporter of this theory. Law and state are virtually the same in Kelsen's opinion. The state is nothing but a legal system. Kelsen states that just as people build the statue through humanization, similarly, legislature has humanized the cognitive system of standards and built the state. It is said that the state constructs the law, but it only means that the law controls its creation. When abstract rules are considered, then law is talked about, and when an institutional created by those rules is considered, then it comes to the state. The practical importance of Kelsen's idea is that he has given special emphasis that law is more fundamental than state. It is true that law cannot exist without a legal system. It is true that law cannot exist without a legal system, but that system can be found in any other form than the state. Thus, Kelsen's theory is more comprehensive and acceptable than Austin's theory. A legal system can be created in the international arena without establishing a supreme state. This is the three important principles of relationship between state and law. These three principles have certain characteristics, so it is expedient to pay attention to them. It would not be appropriate to pay special attention to any one principle. According to Rodolph, obtaining the law from the state and receiving the state by law is meaningless. Let's examine the definition of law given by Salmon. Do you agree that this definition is an improvement upon Austin's definition? Let's discuss the definition of law given by Salmon. Law is the body of principles recognized and applied by the state in the administration of justice. Salmon says, let's explain it. Various jurists have defined the law. from time to time in their own way. Amongst these definitions, the definitions given by Austin and Holland are prominent. But later on, these definitions were also criticized and an effort was made to give revised definitives. Revised definition. Salmon is at the core for this phenomenon. In addition to the salmon, pollock and midland have also made efforts to give complete and meaningful definition of law. All these jurists have given importance of contribution of court in the definition of law. Salmon was of the view that was Salmon was the view of that. Salmon was of the view that laws are not only framed by legislating, but laws are also framed by the court. Most of the laws of England are framed by courts. Along with it, Salmon was also of the view that whether the law is framed by anybody, these are recognized and appointed by the courts. If any law is not recognized and applied by the court, then it cannot be said as a rule of law. Taking into consideration the above, law has been defined according to the rule by Salmon. Law is a body of principles recognized and applied by the state in the administration of justice as the rules recognized and acted on by the courts of justice. In simple language, this definition can be presented as under law is a body of principles. Law is a body of principles recognized and applied by the state in the administration of justice. In this way, there is inclusion of all what subject rules in the definition of law. According to him, law means civil law, which applies upon the persons of a country. Salmon has called this law as law of state, law of lawyers, and law of courts. Actually, a law is that one which is recognized and applied by courts. Definition given by Salmon is considered better for two reasons. One is, firstly, according to it, the formation of law can be from other sources than legislative. And secondly, under this definition, the aim of law justice has also been included. The definition of law given by Salmon has following main elements or characteristics. One is, law is a body of principles. Two is, these principles or rules are recognized and applicable by the state. And three is, these principles and rules of law are used by the courts in administration of justice. From the definition of law given by Salmon, it is clear that the law is that whose rules and principles are recognized and applied by the state in the administration of justice. If a rule is recognized but not applicable in administration of justice, then that cannot be considered as law. One of the quality of definition given by Salmon is that it includes customary law in the world of law, because when a custom or tradition has been recognized by the court, then it becomes a law. In reference to India, also the definition of law given by Salmon appears appropriate to some extent. According to Salmon, it is not necessary that the law is framed by the legislative. It can be framed by the court also. According to it, today in India, many rules and principles of law has got recognition, which have not been framed by the legislative, but are the rules and principles searched by the courts. The best example of it is the basic structure of the Constitution. The basic structure of Constitution has not been described in the Constitution anywhere. First of all, in the case of Keshwaran Bharti versus the state of Kerala, year 1973, SC 1461, it was recognized and applied in the form of law by the Supreme Court. Other judicial decisions like this are there were in the road founding principle in the decision have been given the form of law. Criticism. The definition of law given by Salman are though considered practical in many ways, but due to various reasons it is being criticized. It is said by the criticizers that Salman has given more importance to justice in his definition, that is, the main aim of law was said to be justice, whereas in addition to justice, the aim of law is also to maintain peace, safety, and order. According to pattern, commentary upon law with reference to justice creates doubt in the relation of law and justice. If the definition of Simon is considered as it is, then law cannot be improper at any time, because the word justice is attached to it. But in actual it is not like this. For example, being improper, the natural law continued in the form of law in Rome. Baron Himmer says, this definition given by Simon is incomplete because the justice is not only considered as law by Simon, but the law is considered such an equipment or medium by which justice can be obtained, Lord Wright says. Simon has not defined the term court, which created many doubts. For example, whether the administrative tribunals can be said to be courts who may time give decision on self-discretion and their decision of final. Fitzgerald says. I thank all my brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, students, scholars, teachers, trainers, professors, professionals, officer, officials, listeners, learners. I thank all respected doctors and directors. I thank all honorable ministers and managers. I thank all honorable advocates, supervisors, administrators, and users. I thank the most honored Prince Modiji. Thank you very much. Thank you. Have a nice day. Good morning to all of you. Thank you.